everyone. I am Nitesh Hatwar, Department of CSE AIML at Julilal Institute of Engineering and Technology. Now, today we are going to discuss about a subject knowledge C++, that is the object-oriented programming language. So, starting with the object-oriented programming language, we have to know about the history of C++. So, in the introduction, C++ is an object-oriented programming language where it is developed by B. Journey stops in early 80s at 88 Bell Lab. It is better than C. Why it is better than C? Because C is a procedural oriented programming language. Rather, C++ is object oriented programming language. Although C++ is overcome to the C. So in a real life, we are using mostly C++ language because it is an object oriented programming. In the object oriented programming language, a lot more concepts are there rather than C. Now, by using this Venn diagram, we have to understand why C++ is. So ultimately, C++ is overcoming the C. So that's why we are using C++ language in today's era. Most of the functions, most of the structures were we use in a C++ rather than C language. So here, if we focus on the procedure-oriented programming language, we know we mostly emphasis on algorithms. Large program which will be divided into the number of procedures or functions. So ultimately, C is a using that is top-down approach, whereas C++ use a bottom-up approach. Mainly the data is in a program that is globally used, data move freely inside the system. So we mainly focus on the C++ language. So what it is actually the object oriented programming language, which only emphasis on, which will be mainly focus on a data. Means that the large program which will be divided into the number of objects. That's why we saying it is an object oriented programming language. So number of object we define in C++. Like see in this diagram, we have a data, we have a function, and which will be interconnected with each other. And it is, we can say it is the tied up with the functions. And I already said that is it is use a bottom up approach. Now come to the object. What it is object is. An object is a collection of some properties, characteristics we can say, some behavior with some existence. That is an object. Simple, if we say object, it is an instance of a class. We can say object is an instance of a class. A simple example, if we say in a in this example, the properties like length, breadth, width, this is the data elements. Come to the behavior, we can close, we can open, these are the functions of that particular object. And if we set the existence, we measure that length, either 15, 16, whatever it is, breadth, it is in number, width is in number. So it comes into the value data we can take. So in this box object, we can show its length, breadth, and width also. So if we say the properties of that particular object, that is the data element, we can say length, breadth, and width. And some we show behavior, that is we can show the open and close. And come to the existence, yes, that is the value of that length, breadth, and width. Then come to the class. Ultimately, if we focus on the object-oriented programming language, we must have to know object and its class. Now come to the class. Class is the collection of some properties, behavior, or it is an a data type. Class is a data type which have some properties, some characteristics, and behavior. Suppose if we say box is a class where its properties is length, breadth, and width. That comes under a data members. We can say a data members. And comes to the member functions, that is the open and close in the block in the box class. So if we say only the member functions, so comes under it is a behavior part, that is open and close. So here this is the example of a box. It is a class. So what are the data elements and its member functions? So data elements is length, breadth, and width, and some member functions is open and close. This comes under your class. Now come to the class have some logical structure, some prototypes where the object has physical existence. So class, it is without object it is not possible. Ultimately we can say object, it is an instance of a class, so it will be dependable. Ultimately class is the collection of similar types of object where the data value may not be the same. Likewise, now come to the oops definition of oops, that we already consider this. It is an approach which provide a way to make modularized program by allocating separate memory location for both data and function, which acts as an prototype for creating some more object as demo. So some if we say some insertion extraction operators in C++, so see C out and C in, it is an insertion operation. So moreover, if we want to develop any C++ program, we must have to know about the file which will be included. So some header files are there. In that header files, we know about the hash include iostream.h. This is the header file which will be included in a C++ for insertion and deletion. So cout and cin is an object of an that iostream header file, we can say. So it is, so C in a cout is an object of the class iostream. O stream, not io. O means output and I means input. So cout is an object of the class O string and cin an object of the class I string. That's why cout, if you want to write cout double less than, that is an insertion to put an operator, where cin as an object of the class I string, which will be double greater than, called as an extraction, or to get something from operators that we are going to see. Okay, for the today's lecture we are stop over. Further lecture we will be discussed in the next lecture. Thank you.